credibility. If you come in and can be upfront and honest and say, actually in this application, I think this product over here that I don't represent would be better for you. That all of a sudden now you become a trusted advisor rather than a salesman.
And I often say that we have all the requirements of space, right? Because it has to go underground and send us data from miles and miles away, and it has to work. Like, failure is not an option.
We'll put on, a standard mule shoe. Ours is slightly different just for that, but it's, everybody's got one.
The top drive and the drawworks really don't care whether the electrons coming at it are from a joystick or a PLC.
The panel, what you see here on the left, which is now controlled by one of my students, is showing you actually the control of our brakes.
As of now, geothermal is a pretty small market.
If you have tortuosity, the casing will be up against the side on part of the well. There won't be any cement there. The cement will have crescent around it.
So managed pressure drilling, it's been defined as a process to precisely control the pressure profile in the wellbore.
The key is being transparent with our clients in this case. So tell them what happened. If we had a failure, tell them exactly what happened. Whether it's our fault, whether it's whatever the issue was, we need to be transparent.
I think it's very important for everyone in the industry to know what's out there and kind of what's happening downhole as well.
I've probably worked on over 40 different performance limiters in my career. If I miss any of those and the computer is raising weight on bit and I miss any of those, I have a train wreck. The computer's going in the ocean.
Here's your new colors, here's your new thing. We don't do that at all.
Here's the tattoo you need to get.
Yeah, here's the tattoo. Sorry about the last one. We used to fake that all the time.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to round 2 of the show. This time, I believe we are live streaming on LinkedIn. I hope it's working because that's just a lot of issues to have to deal with. And all I did was tilt the camera 90 degrees and give myself a different background this morning. And then internet stuff didn't want to work. So this is the Vidor Locksmith Show. We are bringing you the secrets to success in the oil and gas industry. One interview, one presentation, and one mess up at a time. So I'm happy we got this thing working. I really am because, today's a big show. We've got some really cool people coming on. And we've also got Keith Stetler coming on and doing his 1 minute with Keith. So, it's a perfect way to end the week. And it's a cold week, or cold day, at least here in outside of Austin, Texas. It's pretty cold. So thank you guys for being here. I really do appreciate it. Appreciate everybody's support and bearing with me. And we're starting the show 15 minutes late, and you had to watch the intro twice, especially if you're people watching from YouTube. Then you just have to. Everything seems to work there just fine. LinkedIn's the one that's always having the problems. So I should say this. For the people that's come up as LinkedIn user is working, Dave. Thank you. Appreciate it, David, but that's okay. Good morning from Calgary, Canada. LinkedIn has acknowledged the fact that they have this problem, and they are trying to fix it so that the person's picture, it goes this way, the person's picture and their name would actually come up. So they're on track with fixing this problem. So stay tuned for us being able to get that fixed and ready to go. So say hi to a couple of people. Slotty, thank you for being here. It's for Michael Hicks. Actually, I don't think any of the LinkedIn user pictures are working now. Okay, at least some of the names are coming up. All right, so we've got all of the guests in the background. There we go. Things are looking good. Liking this. Patty Murphy, thanks for being here. Rolf, as always. Donnie Fulton. All right, I'm going to put this out there. Donnie is one of these. He's a directional driller. He's taking part in the hashtag 28 Days Later challenge, where people are posting to LinkedIn 28 days in a row, just to be able to get more familiar with posting on LinkedIn, be able to get their presence out there and be known a little bit more. This guy has been consistent with it from day one. He is a directional driller. If you're looking for a jam up hand, find him on LinkedIn. Give the guy a shout. Bring him onto the team. We want to be able to celebrate his success, and I have no doubt that he's going to be an amazing talent for your organization if that's somebody that you're looking for. We got Chisholm watching in from Midland. Is it cold in Midland? I've heard that there's some rigs being shut down because everything's like freezing up out there. Mr. Hicks, thank you for being here. I do appreciate it. He's also doing the challenge. My buddy Barry Lacoste. Barry, as always, thanks for being here. You like the intro. I'm not a big fan of screwing up my intro. Dean was on the show last week, and now he's here this week watching. This is awesome. This is how you grow an audience. You bring them onto the show, then they're like, well, I guess I got to watch next week's. All right, there we go. Jenny Wilson. Jenny is absolutely amazing person. She works over there at Dixon Drexel as a sales and account manager. Absolutely one of my dear friends here in the industry. Jenny, thanks for thanks so much for being here and watching. Oh, I just clicked the button where like everything just scrolls by real quick. Dan McFarland says hi to Barry. Cool. LinkedIn user says hi, David. I'm here. So party has started. I don't know who you are, but yeah, the party has started. And look, now I've got room to like do stuff. I could dance if I wanted to. We're not going to do that right now. Oh. I get too excited and things start to break. Not good. All right. But that's kind of how the show works. Oh, I should do this. So the reason why I set up a little bit different is I'm getting everything mounted onto my desk and I'm getting a 2-camera system set up. But the second camera is not really pointed at anything. But check this out. I can just press a button and it goes to the second camera. We got this cool little gizmo gadget called an ATM Mini Pro. We're going to be getting multiple camera setups. If we had time, the kids are actually here today. They're more like there in the room next over. I was wanting to be able to set up a camera that would just like it'd be like the kids cam and we could like tune in on what they're doing here during the show. I completely predict that they're going to come busting through that door any minute during the show and want to come in here and say hi. So plan on that happening. Dr. Kathleen Teodoro, thank you so much for being here. He's been on the show before. Mr. Drew Wood. Drew, thanks for being here, sir. Allie, Mr. Graham, studio looks great. Now we need a decision on your beard. We're going to have a vote. Vote on my beard? No, there's no votes about the beard. I get to pick when it goes. Graham, oh, everybody else is talking to each other. Hottie's here. You're sure it's not Friday the 13th? It could be. All right. I'm sorry. Hello to Artie Morrison, Jim Blaylock. I'm just way behind the ball here. It's like we're already 15 minutes past where we're supposed to be at. Whitney Bell also taking part in the 28-day challenge. Also somebody looking for a job. Be sure to give her a shout. All right. Enough of this. Let's talk about the serious stuff. If you guys don't know already, be sure to check this out. March 3rd, we're having the first ever rotary Gibson Reports rotary steerable systems of it. Push it, point it, rotate it. You see all of the sponsors, everybody that's going to be there. This is going to be one of the biggest oil and gas online events ever. That's what I'm predicting right now. Predicting it, putting it out there. We're going to make it happen. If you haven't signed up already, please sign up. If you have already signed up, I'm asking you personally as a favor to me, just send out 10 invites. Send out 10 invites to 10 colleagues. That's all we're looking for. Just bring in 10 more people. Let 10 more people know about the event. There we go. All right, that's the most important stuff for today. Besides, the guests and everybody else that's coming onto the show, that's all my important stuff. All right, so this individual is an absolutely amazing individual. Keith has been absolutely killing out there on social media. This guy deserves a job 100%. If you're looking for somebody to be able to do business development, sales, marketing, and has operational experience and knowledge, especially on the wireline side, this is your man right here. Bonafide hire. Got to get him onto your team. This is your minute with Keith.
Thanks for having me on, David. Quite the start to the show. In a recent Business Insider article, CEOs discussed what attributes they looked for in the most in hiring new talent. And the main that really rose to the top were resilience, the ability to adapt, like a situation like this, and positivity. Got to stay positive, right? And I believe, definitely you, David, have seen a lot of that in me. And ever since I got let go of COVID, throwing myself out there, right? So the resilience has been every day grinding it out engaging with people on social media. This has become my full-time job. Really, it has been about trying to go out there and find an opportunity, not just any opportunity, but a great opportunity for me. So I've made it a full-time job, just being resilient, just not stopping. There's been low days where I just, kind of push forward. And because of all that, I was predominantly an operations guy my whole entire career. So not a marketing guy. So I had to adapt to this, this new environment we're all in with COVID. And, I found myself pushed on social media and engaging with people, and not just engaging with them, but winning them over to my cause. Like I have so many supporters out there, helping me out all the time. And quick shout out to, Mike Jeffers, Steve Harris. They're always sharing my posts and helping me out. Like these guys are supporting me. I've never met these guys in real life, so it's really been, a pleasure, interacting with them. And then, finally, I think the reason why they're all interacting is the themes in which all my posts follow: positivity, encouragement. If I could go back and tell my younger self one thing, it would be more positive, not such a, realist. I would look at, the sun's always going to come up tomorrow, right? And you have to have that attitude moving forward, no matter what the situation is. Look for the good in all of it. And hopefully, if you haven't known me, or you don't know me, or haven't seen any of my posts, hopefully I've begun to win you over. And now you're a little bit more interested in me. And if you are hiring and looking for a great teammate, I'm looking for a great team. Once again, I'd also like to send a special thanks for some guys who've been helping me out too. Donnie Davis, JP Warren, and of course, Roy Strawn and David Gibson, always helping me out, putting me out here. Really appreciate it, Dave. I hope you have a great show today, and no more hiccups.
Uh-oh. Well, there was another hiccup. I guess Keith just pushed it onto me there. That's just so I don't know what it is. I think my computer's running slow with some of the video intro outro stuff. So sometimes it comes up on the screen, sometimes it goes away. I don't know what it is sometimes. All right. So I did the update on LinkedIn because I completely forgot to do that. I'm like just completely off of my rocker today. I don't know what the problem is. It's all right. Just you have problems, you just roll with it, you keep going, you can't stop, can't give up. All right, so for everybody out there, I'm trying to find my mouse. There it is. All right, guys, so we are doing filming of season 2 of How It's Done. Not really getting, I'm just going to be honest, we're not getting the traction that we wanted to get. Not many people are wanting to be a part of this for whatever reason. I don't know. We're looking for companies that want to be on the show. Reach out to me. I will say this, it's not 100% free. Okay. There is a little bit of a cost involved. It's worth it, in my opinion. You get a 30-year professional videographer who makes a 5 to 10 minute video about a product or service of your company does. Be honest, that's super cheap. Like, you don't realize how cheap it is, but that is super cheap. And then you get it portrayed out there on the internet for everybody to watch forever and ever and ever. It's worth it. Okay, just say it. It's worth it. All right, so we'll play the intro to the video, and then we'll be back with our guest of the day. All right, there, we finally made it to the most important part of the show. So I'd like to introduce you guys to everybody. We've got David Curry, Michael Edwards, and Matthew Forshaw here to be able to tell us about the SPE DSATs Symposium that's coming up next month. SPE, Society of Petroleum Engineers, DSATs, drilling section, automation, technical section. Yes, something like, there we go. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Curry. David, could you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are. Tell us what you're about. And then we'll go around. We'll go to Michael. Then we'll go to Matthew. And then David will come back to you, and you can tell us what DSATs is.
Great. So thanks, David. Thanks for the introduction. I'm David Curry. I'm the European Program Chair for DSATs. That's the Drilling Systems Automation Technical Section. Matt, introduce yourself, Matt.
Yes, my name is Matt Pottrell, and I'm on the subcommittee with David for this year's symposium hosted by DSATs.
Excellent. I'm Michael Edwards, and I also am on the program committee with Matt and reporting up to our chair, Dr. Curry.
Thanks, Michael. Matt. Okay, so each year, DSATs and more acronyms, the International Association of Drilling Contractors, IADC, Advanced Rig Technology Committee, ART, get together to stage a symposium on a rig automation related topic. And that's held in conjunction with and immediately before the SPE IADC International Drilling Conference. And it's been my pleasure to work with a group of genuinely enthusiastic, dedicated professionals to organize this year's symposium. You met Matt and Michael. In addition to them, we've got others on the committee, John Clegg, Sigve Hovda, Leif Stavnis, and we're being helped by the DSAT's Middle Eastern Program Chair, Mahmoud Abu Haben. And before we go any further, I really want to say a big thank you to all of them for all their help and all the hard work they've been putting in. So having said that, David.
I have to agree. There is a lot of work that if anybody out there is watching, if you've never been a part of one of the industry associations, whether it's IADD, SPE, DSATs, DUPS, ISCWSA, Alphabet Soup, whatever direction you want to go, it takes a lot of work to be able to get these events put together, to be able to get speakers. I do this like the show here on a weekly basis, and you see some of the troubles that I go through. Just imagine having to be able to get, quadruple the number of speakers all lined up in order to be able to get people ready to be able to speak, whether it's in person or an online event. These are still takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to be able to get put together. So thank you to the three of you. I appreciate it very much. And to all of the other DSATs members that are taking part and the speakers that are taking part. So David, with that, what was the main focus for the symposium this year? What was the message and what were some of the key points that y'all really wanted to be able to hit on this year?
Well, in essence, the theme we're trying to address here is how do we automate at scale in times of crisis, times of industrial crisis and societal crisis? And what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to turn over to Matt and Michael to talk a little bit more about the themes, how we're going to develop that. And then maybe I'll come back and talk a little bit about the structure and some of the other aspects of the symposium. But Matt, Michael, do you want to address the theme?
Sure. In fact, Matt and I are kind of a team here, and I'd home in here on saying a couple of things. One is, this last year has been a major reflection point for us, and one of the reflection points for automation has been that we do know how to automate. We've been spending most of our time talking about how to automate, and in this symposium, we're going to talk about why we haven't ramped up full-scale automation and what are actually the barriers in which we're doing. So there's some areas we're going to be highlighting, and those barriers, we've handpicked some key panelists and keynotes that we believe they're actually demonstrating overcoming these barriers. And we want to make sure that the audience out there are actually seeing those barriers and are able and equipped to overcome those. Matt, do you have any additional?
Nothing to add additionally. I guess I can give a little bit more detail. So we're going to kick the symposium off with a kind of talk about the situation that we're in at the moment in this industry, and that's going to come from Frederick Amann at Rystad Energy. I'm not even going to try and pronounce Frederick's second name because it's Norwegian, and I think I'll make a mess of it. So apologies, Frederick, if you're watching. And he's going to talk a little bit about what's happened in the last 12 months with regards to the pandemic, and what their outlook is as business analysts for the next 12, 24, 36 months. And then we're going to follow that with Equinor and a keynote there to really try and get an idea of what Equinor is seeing in terms of progress with drilling automation. Because I think, as Michael alluded to, we're definitely past the PowerPoint stage with this. You know, we're not at the stage where we're all just showing fancy graphs on what we could do in the future. We're at the stage where some operators are really going out along with their partners and implementing this technology and starting to see some KPI improvement there.
Well, let me ask you this. So we do have a couple of quick questions that have already come in, and anybody that is watching, if you do have a question, be sure to throw them out there. We will definitely get them put up there. So one of them was first from a LinkedIn user. I wish they had at least had like a number, so we called LinkedIn user 5301 or something. How much does the symposium cost?
Okay, so I'm going to answer that one. Registration for participation in the symposium is free. And the symposium, this is the first year, it's going to be a virtual event. And yes, I appreciate David's enthusiasm about that. For us, it was a key point. We wanted to make the symposium free for all participants. You know, the mission of both the organizations behind the symposium is to promote, advance the development and implementation of automation technology, and to do that by sharing knowledge, sharing technology. That's exactly what the symposium is trying to do. So we want to make it free. We want to encourage as many people as possible to participate. Now, that's the good news. The downside is that there are costs in staging a virtual event, and we've got to cover those costs. We haven't got any registration fees coming in to offset the cost. So we're looking for sponsorship. We've been really fortunate. Baker Hughes have already kindly stepped up to the plate and said they're going to sponsor. Frankly, we need more sponsorship. If anybody listening to this interview thinks their organization could be interested in sponsoring us and interested in getting all the benefits of the association, the exposure that your organization will get, then please get in touch with me, Matt or Michael. Our contact details are on LinkedIn, or you can find me on spd.org, and we'll be more than happy to follow up with you.
Excellent. I love free things.
Thanks.
Sorry, Michael, go ahead.
That's okay. Yeah, I just wanted to thank David. David actually really went out to bat to make this free. We do feel, because this was a face-to-face originally, that we're now going on online, that the exposure for the sponsors are much greater. As you can see, Matt's actually calling in from Germany. We've got David here from the UK. And of course, I'm from Houston, you're in Austin. So our exposure here is fantastic. And so we really do want to thank Baker Hughes. Baker Hughes has really come out to bat for us, even back in the face-to-face that we originally were going to be in Norway. And as we know, with the situation around the world, this has actually turned out to be a kind of a silver lining for us to go virtual and expand the audience on a very, very important topic for our industry.
How important do you think it is, David, for this event to be free? And, you know, because I've always been a proponent of that. Do you think that this will help to really broaden the message of what DSATs and what the industry's doing to the broader audience, and be able to bring in some maybe even more field level staff for them to be able to see what, you know, potentially the future holds, or even some of the SPE student chapters?
Well, it's very important. You know, as Michael says, I was very keen to make sure that participation could be free. You know, we've got some experience where SPE has charged in the past for online events. The audience has stayed away, and that's the very last thing we want. You know, particularly, we've said it's a time of crisis for the industry. There isn't spare cash. There are unfortunately too many people associated with the industry who are not going to be able to turn over a registration fee to their employer. So for them to be able to encourage them to be able to come attend, hopefully to learn, find things that are interesting, then, you know, we really have to make it free.
All right, so I'm starting to get more questions coming in. If you have any questions, keep bringing them in. I'm lining them up over here on the side to be able to get these all ready to go. I want to fire off one more question myself. Hey, Brooklyn. What'd you make?
I finished my book for you for Valentine's.
Yeah, I know. It is fine. Valentine, thank you so much. You want to say hi to everybody? Hi. All right, David. So, Michael and Matt, I want to be able to ask you this question. As you guys were getting ready and building the schedule for this event, was there anything that y'all discovered throughout getting ready for this that really kind of shocked you, and you were like, "Wow, we've really got to be able to have this on the schedule and be able to put this information out there for the broader audience"?
Matt, do you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
Okay, great. For me, I think coming into the program committee a little bit late, and of course the leadership, of course in our program committee, being receptive to my thoughts about challenging the industry on what it takes to scale up automation during this time, really helped to shape the program in a different way. Again, we've been so used to talking about how the nuts and bolts of automating, opposed to really challenging the biggest barriers, which we believe are 4 major areas. One is there's a perception of capital investment, a huge capital investment that's needed for automation. We believe that's just a perception. We also think that there's a redefining of partnerships that are going on right now with regards to automation that are not the conventional partnerships that we've seen in the past. We also think that there's a key area with long-term strategies that are integrating, not just a top-down from operator to manufacturer, asset owner, the rig contractor, but we also see the coming together and influencing each other's roadmaps and a long-term strategy integration. The fourth item is, quite frankly, at the end of the day, we need to manage change. And there are companies that manage change a lot more effectively than others. Whether it's a culture setting that they believe and they're leaning into within their own companies, or they're just not managing change effectively. And we actually think management of change is a big area. Matt, I know there's some other details and also with the approach that we took with the participants and carefully selecting who we had on this symposium. Matt,
yes, yeah, so I guess, having those 4 things in mind, we then thought about who would we need to have in a room to have a pretty interesting and potentially edgy discussion about that, because we don't have everybody on the same side saying that automation is great and it's going to solve all of our problems. We definitely want some people to challenge that point of view. So we knew we needed some operators in the room, and being originally a physical event, we wanted to have Equinor there, being one of the main players in the region, introducing this kind of technology. And then with that, we needed their partners. So we needed some vendors, some service companies such as Baker Hughes, and also the equipment providers like MHWorth. And then the final piece really was that we needed some people from the investment community to really, talk about that second item that Michael mentioned, which was access to capital in the current economic climate, to pursue these kind of technology developments and product development programs within these partnerships.
The other thing I'd raise, David, when we talk about access to capital, is the opportunity to tap into the green investment areas. We've been not talking about this area as a separate item. It's integrated into the automation decision making and our ability to tap into some of these carbon neutral automated systems today.
And as Matt mentioned earlier on, it's no accident that there's a focus on a Nordic focus to the composition of the panel and to the speakers. Yes, it started out that because we were going to have a physical symposium in Norway, but the Norwegian sector is probably further advanced in the implementation of automated drilling controls offshore than other sectors. And we really wanted to be able to learn from them what it is that's allowed them to advance the automation, what it is they're looking for by way of return, and how they demonstrate and assess effectiveness of automation.
Which actually leads me into one of the questions that was brought up from the audience, which is from LinkedIn user 5629. This seems like the symposium is a North Sea oriented. What are the particular challenges in the North Sea versus, say, onshore US or land, as I like to call it?
I mean, I could kick off with that one. I suppose the biggest difference between those two markets is the spread rates of of operating those different assets. And that you shave 30 minutes off drilling time in an offshore asset in the North Sea, you're going to save in the tens to the hundreds of thousands. Whereas you do it on US land, and perhaps the saving isn't quite the same. But that's not to say that technology isn't applicable. I think the technology has to be tailored to different applications, but the technology is certainly as applicable in that market as it is in the high spread rate offshore market. Michael, David, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, with regards to offshore, we spend a good 40% of the time tripping in and out of hole. So you can think about on bottom time with regards to drilling on land, you're actually looking at very different performance matrix. So when you think about the challenges offshore with tripping in and out of hole, you're wanting to safeguard your hole, your well control, swabbing of the hole, very important managed pressure drilling envelopes that we have to manage. It's a bit different. Do you need to put her up? There she
No, she's asking to play with my little Russian dolls that are in the background.
Oh yeah, that's great. But anyway, that those performance envelopes are a bit different, but they're also very relevant to automation, no matter if you're on land, onshore, or offshore, or even reentry or interventions.
So just to pick up a couple of points. Sorry if I may. One, we hope very much that we'll be able to bring out some of the differences, and that by going into what are those key performance indicators that allow Equinor to demonstrate return, or if you like, demonstrate value, then maybe that can point up to the sort of differences between the offshore Norway, onshore US markets, and allow for that sort of identification of what will be the real value in the different application areas. Another point I wanted to make, though, before I forget it, in the title of the symposium, you'll see that the word drilling isn't actually mentioned. It's how to automate at scale in times of crisis. We've dropped the drilling deliberately from that because rig automation and automation of downhole equipment can have impact in any well-related operation that employs the rig. Drilling for sure, but also completing, evaluating, working over, plugging and abandoning. And we hope there'll be something in the symposium for anyone who's got interest in those domains, and hopefully you'll be able to attract them to attend and participate.
I'm glad you said that, because part of what your interest was, as far as this scaling up, we had the question, what do you mean by scale up? Is that one rig, 10, or a whole fleet? From LinkedIn user 333.
I could start that. I mean, I think it could mean any of those things, but it could also mean something else, which is the adoption in terms of number of operators in different regions adopting that kind of technology. I think we've mentioned Equinor 2 or 3 times already, and we know that some of the other big IOCs are adopting this kind of technology, but it's definitely not something that you go and you find on every drilling rig in every market around the world. And what's stopping that from being a reality now or in the next few years, I think, is one of the questions that we really want to tackle in this. To directly answer the question, it's, it could be any one of those answers, but it also really applies to the global footprint of this technology.
So with that, and kind of in regards to the last question about, land versus offshore, obviously offshore has the bigger budgets, and, automation can make a larger impact there. But if a company can create a product or service, or if a operator can create a set of procedures and way that they do things to be able to automate, if we can do it on, a low budget US land job, then do you think there's the ability then to be able to scale it up to something that takes place offshore?
Most certainly.
So one of the
same process.
Yeah. So one of the things that we want to explore through the symposium is CapEx-free implementation. There are some things that you can do with existing kit, but to extend automation. And you can think about automated processes which can be implemented with existing kit. And so we want to explore that concept and see how much that might be able to impact on some of the value drivers for automation.
That's right. In fact, it goes back to the word we used earlier, David, which is perception, that there is a live and real perception of a big barrier in capital investment. We believe that is overcome by the participants that we chose. So we want to make sure that we exemplify what they're doing in the field today, making key leadership decisions. But when you dive into the root, what we're finding is that the excuse of not having capital is really excuse not to have a long-term plan. These companies are open to the long-term plan. They're sharing it across the industry with their manufacturers, their asset owners. They're actually being influenced by the asset owners, which, are rig contractors saying, no, I'm sorry, but this is what we think we need for our rig fleets. And there's a coming together that's, I think, very unique in the way that we're partnering today. But we're saying here is that we do know we can automate. We are doing it in pockets, but we're not doing it to the scale we believe we need to have.
So, Michael, to be able to follow up on that, do you believe that data transparency between the operators and the service companies is one of the bottlenecks there to keeping, whether it be young budding entrepreneurs, the opportunity to get in there, or existing service companies, or even just other operators, the ability to collaborate and work together and to be able to find better opportunities to automate?
Well, the devil's in the detail on data. Data depends on what you're talking about. So yes, I do believe transparency drives a collaboration in ways that we don't have in our current business models today. I do think we need to be driving and asking the reason why we're not automating, why we're not sharing that certain data. Is it really as proprietary as we think? And what do we need to overcome? I do believe that we like to think things are proprietary when they're really not. And at the end of the day, we need to be asking why we're not doing the things that we know we can do, identify the barrier, and then look to others that have actually overcome it. There's some great examples out there with Equinor. We've got Transocean, we got MH Worth, we got Baker Hughes. We also have a private equity guy with Lime Rock that's going to join us, Trevor Burgess, which we're very pleased to have, who's actually got a wealth of background in the service sector and is giving us some views along with Rastack, an analyst that's telling us what we should be doing to ramping up interventions of our wells. Which will surprise people that we do see wells and the activity in wells actually growing during this stage. So,
David, so you mentioned data. There is an industry roadmap for automation, which John DeWart led consortium developing that with a lot of DSAT's involvement. There's a role at the center of that roadmap towards automation around data integration. And the issues around sharing of data, access to data sharing, input, exploitation of that really are core to effective automation.
Well, I agree, David, and I think we're going to demonstrate that in this symposium. Again, I guess we're starting to sound a little bit like a broken record, but that's through these long-term agreements with their vendors, what Equinor has forced their different vendors to do, to integrate both between themselves and also with them as the operator in order to deliver some of these automated solutions, which have now started to, give a return in terms of the KPI improvement. So that's definitely critical here. If we go away and we develop our siloed solutions, then those siloed solutions are going to have a glass ceiling in what kinds of return they can provide. But if we develop something that can, all of these different components can interact and talk to each other, companies that are more adept at developing software solutions can then interface with hardware solutions that have come from other other vendors, and I think that's definitely the way forward. But to do that, you definitely need long-term partnerships in place to be able to do that. If you've got a 6-month contract, it's pretty hard to get a product out and these systems working together in a short period of time.
Which I'd like to be able to say is one of the biggest challenges in the US land market is that there's usually not long-term contracts with anything. It's well to well, it's run to run with a lot of the hiring of the service companies, as opposed to international NOCs or even some of the multinationals where you hire a rig, you've got that rig on contract for a long period of time, and the service companies are there as well, so everybody can continue to work together as a team. Whereas if you don't do so hot in a well in West Texas, you might not be on the next run.
But there is an answer to this. I think you, David, probably know this, and so does everybody else here, and that would be standardization. And if we standardize APIs and interfaces, then that becomes less of a barrier in these more volatile markets in terms of vendor-operator relationship.
That is very true.
We're also finding, David, that there are some land contractors that are seeing this as a differential advantage for them. And they are choosing, their leadership is choosing to move key capital, operational expense to automation to be more competitive. And they do recognize that this could be a competitive advantage for them, but they're also jumping on the bus of, they do think this is the future. And this future bus is driving forward. And if you're not on it, then the relevance of the rig fleet may be a question down the road.
So, David, I saw we had another question jump up on the screen. Before I forget it, you get as old as me, your memory gets very permeable. So you have to jump on things whilst they're still there. Does this apply to remote operations?
There.
Absolutely.
I was just about to bring it up. There we go. Will remote operations be covered as opposed to just quote unquote automation?
Right. Okay. So the answer to that is automation can facilitate remote operation. And, this is a point that Sigve Hovda with Equinor, who's been on our committee, was stressing with us, that facilitation, the enhancement of what you can achieve remotely through automation at the rig site really is one of the paybacks. And it becomes probably even more important in times of pandemic when you're wanting to minimize the physical interaction between personnel. If you can have them working remotely, then you've reduced that interaction, you're improving the safety of the environment. So yes, remote operations is certainly seen as one of the benefits and one of the things that automation can enhance.
David, Matt and I also have some interesting views on this as well. My thought is we've made such great inroads during this COVID time. 2020 has raised a huge opportunity for us to ramp up remote operations, particularly offshore, where we have determined that there are expertises that we do not need on our rig sites today, inherently making it safer on our rigs, not having less people. And there's some interesting team dynamics that are happening in our remote operations centers. So yeah, Matt's got some great examples within Baker Hughes as well. Over to you, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, last year, I'm trying to keep my SBE hat on and not put my Baker Hughes hat on, but last year...
don't put the Baker Hughes hat on.
Last year we did 78 or nearly 78%, I think, of our wells that were drilled were done with some form of remote operations, which is bigger than it's ever been before naturally. And we've been on a rising curve for some time, but really a catalyst was the pandemic. And when we look at that, we get a lot of positive feedback from the operators on that because they've not seen a reduction in service quality. But then the big bonus is that the sustainability of that operation improves because you stop sending people to rigs, you start sending people to and from places in helicopters, then you're immediately reducing the carbon footprint of that operation. And if we look at most of the big IOCs, certainly, and even a lot of independents now, and they all have targets for carbon footprint over the next 3, 4, 5 years and further out. And remote operations is something that's that's helping that. The other thing I wanted to point out, and David, I don't fully know your background, but you've been a field hand, and
yes,
I'm guessing, and being in an MWD shack is pretty good fun, or can be, and you're working with a good group of people, and it's a nice environment to be in, and you learn a lot from other people. And that was something I think people always worried we were going to maybe lose when we took people from the rig side and we put them in remote op centers. But you put 20 of those people, rather than the 1 or 2 other people you were working with in the cabin, in a remote op center, in a room together, and suddenly it's a party. And you've got this really good collaborative environment where if you're having an issue, you can go and speak to 3 or 4 other people that have probably seen that issue 10 times in their career. So it's you're constantly learning from other people. You've got a lot of support, and I think that's why we've actually seen this kind of performance improvement through moving to remote operations rather than either a plateau or a dip. It really is it's a fun, it's a collaborative, it's a good environment to work in for our engineers.
So I've got a question for the. Oh, go ahead, David.
But I just wanted to pick up on that. Sort of the benefits of the remote interaction, and sort of show a comment on the structure of the symposium. After we've had the formal, as it were, online panel discussion, we're going to have a few quick updates on DSATs, on art, and on robotics activity. And then we're going to have breakout rooms available where participants can come in and chat with the panelists, the speakers, the organizing committee, and other participants informally. Share experience, ask questions, share your thoughts, and do that in a relaxed and open environment, which we think could be adding value to the symposium from the perspective of the attendees and their interaction.
So I wanted to be able to ask this question, and don't worry, guys, if everybody's asking questions in the comments, we're getting a lot more questions than we normally do, but I just have to ask this question. So I remember seeing at one point in time last year, there was a meme that came out, and it was like, who pushed technology forward the most in your organization? Was it the CEO? Was it the CTO, the CIO? And then there was COVID-19, and COVID-19 was the checkbox, right? So with that said, I was at the last DSATs meeting that we did in San Antonio, right? Since then, how much of a drive have y'all seen for people to actually put a lot of things that we were talking about before, or maybe had been slightly in action, and now more so, like, as far as a time jump, it's been maybe a year and a half since the last event, but have we progressed forward 2, 3, 4, or 5 years because of the pandemic?
I mean, again, from a big Hughes perspective, I would say yes. We are probably further along now, 12 months on, if I think from January or February 2020, before the pandemic hit, we're further along in terms of adoption of remote operations and also adoption of this kind of new digital drilling technology than we thought we would be. So yeah, I saw that meme as well, and I think I cringed a little bit and thought, well, is that really true? But I think partially it's true. It's definitely accelerated things. Maybe catalyst is a strong word, but it certainly pushes in the right direction.
I would agree with that. Accelerating is the right way of looking at this. This is something that we know very much the topic related to what we're going to do at the symposium is we know much of this automation. We know even how to full scale it up in certain rig fleets that are demonstrating this today. But, we really do need to accelerate it. It's in our best interest as an industry to do that. And it does make it safer. The ROI, the return on investment, is quite clear, whether it's on land or offshore. And we do need a share in that pie. So yeah, that acceleration, I do agree with Matt. It's more of an acceleration versus a catalyst.
Can I just say, to whoever raised that question, don't forget it. Bring it with you to the symposium on Monday, 8th of March. And make sure you get response from Equinor, from Transocean, from Worth, and so from the panelists involved.
Yeah. When pandemics hit, all of a sudden priorities change. So I think some of the priorities that changed, help push things forward. So I'm going to start hammering off and doing almost like lightning round style with some of the questions. This question came in, what time is it now? Almost 30 minutes ago. So Richard, I do apologize for taking so long to get to your question, but it says, I'm not a drilling guy, which is perfectly fine. We left drilling off of the DSAT Symposium for a reason, as David mentioned earlier. I'm not a drilling guy, but is edge computing heavily used in drilling operations? And I guess we could say in oil and gas operations, because we're talking about workover and a lot of the other things. So I'll leave that up to the panel for you all to be able to answer.
Yeah, so I can answer that pretty quickly. So the answer is yes, it is used pretty heavily. But in respect to specifically to drilling automation, while it is used, we still have to make sure that we're doing a lot of our processing on premise, at rig site. But that's definitely the view that we have as Baker Hughes. And we can transmit some of that data through an edge device for visualization or for monitoring off premise. But we need to make sure that anytime we're actually communicating with a rig actuator for control of that or advising the driller directly, we need to do that on premise, just in case, even if there's the slightest risk that communications go down, we don't want to leave the team at the rig site blind.
To extend that a bit further, we're making measurements downhole and controlling some of the drilling process downhole. And we know we have finite transmission bandwidth between downhole and surface, where the main rig controls are. So yes, we have to understand and exploit the computation at the appropriate interface between device and comms with the next. Edge computing really is important, whether it's surface to downhole to surface, rig site, back to the office. There are a number of opportunities in there to exploit it.
Michael, do you want to jump in on that one at all? Or
yeah, real quick, I'll just say 2 cents here. I do think that we have been using edge computing in a variety of areas, but it's nowhere near the level we can leverage. I think the big thing here for me is our visualization, our G&G folks, our geologists, geophysicists. We all have different views of what our subsurface looks like, and edge computing actually plays a key role in making sure we have one unified view of what we're drilling through. So that's just one use and one example. Over to you, David.
Excellent. All right. So like I said, I'm going to start getting through some of the bunch of these questions, but I do want to bring up a comment that was put in earlier. Duncan Blue says time saving on land is okay, but the real benefit on land is safety. And so this actually brings up a thought from me. And the question is, has there ever been like an official study done of like safety versus the number of people who are at a rig site or on a rig site or on the rig floor during a given time period? Like, is that a linear drop off? Because I mean, I'm guessing we're making the assumption that less people at the rig site makes it safer. Is there a linear drop off? Is there an exponential drop off? Is there a point where, there's diminishing returns because there's so few people out on location that like safety actually becomes an issue because there's not enough people there? Do y'all know of anything that's actually been done like that?
I haven't seen anything in the published space, but maybe I just don't have visibility of it. But I suspect that that's something we're probably going to see based on this acceleration that we've seen this year. I think that might be a very hot topic when we look at the academic paper space in 2021 and 2022.
What we do know, David, is that taking personnel off the red zone area on our rig floors, it has a direct impact on safety. So you can think about how we do that. Either you manage it, you could install various automation equipment, pipe handling equipment that prevents personnel from going inside the red zone. So we do know there is a direct impact between automated systems and safety. The question is, to us, is why wouldn't we do this? We know there's a return on investment. We know that there's a huge benefit for safety. There's no question in mind that these automated systems do have a safety impact. And I don't think that doing a great big study is going to make a big difference, other than we know it does have an impact, and every life does matter.
I mean, Michael, I suppose the one thing I could add to that, and agree with all of your points, is even if we do have some study that shows the drop off or a point where taking too many people off the rig is going to maybe have an adverse effect, what we know is that if we reduce the time that rig with all the people on board is on location, we're definitely going to reduce exposure. Personnel manning out of the picture. If that rig's on location for 100 days rather than 120 days, then we've reduced the exposure of the number of people on that rig, whatever that number of people is.
That's Mimi's. That's Mimi's. Put it up, please, man.
Thank you, Matt. David?
Oh, it's me? Okay.
Yep, next question.
All right, sorry. My daughter was playing with like a $500 microphone. Wow. Sorry. It's not my microphone, it's my mom's. So, yeah. All right, next question. What is drilling / rig automation in-game? Reducing rig hands by 20, 50, or 80%? Kind of was my lead in from the last question.
First of all, I would say a couple of things. One is, just because we reduce the personnel offshore does not mean we're reducing onshore. We do think that there's a migration in the roles here, that your role may be one thing offshore, but we do need that expertise inside the remote operations group. This is where well site leaders actually are a great example, where we've migrated well site leaders and have well site leaders in our remote operations making key decisions as if they were on the rigs. Reduction of personnel offshore. I think if you look back even good 15 years ago, we were not at the level of personnel that we were, before COVID. Our personnel have been growing offshore, and we need to ask the question, why is that? Do we really need that growth in personnel offshore? So I'm going to leave it there.
So I would say here, why limit ourselves? Surely the target is should only be limited by our imagination. In RTZ's Mine of the Future, they have fully automated autonomous blast hole drilling rigs, which move themselves around the mine floor, drill the blast holes, and move off, drill the blast pattern, with no operator on the mobile drilling unit at all. Now, obviously, that's just punching down little blast holes rather than a deep and potentially very complex well. But it's still there. It's a target. Maybe we can see how close we can get to that in a manner that is safe and still allows us to control the wells that we make and to achieve those wells' objectives.
All right, so this one actually comes from Mark Anderson, who is definitely a part of the DSATS group. Can the speakers run through the program format? How long is it? Who is speaking? Any networking opportunities? From Mark Anderson. Sweetie, can you go?
Yeah, should we just start off with that, David, Michael?
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, so Matt.
For the 15-minute keynote, which is entitled Business Intelligence, Perspective and Industry, and that's coming from Rystad Energy, and that's really going to bring everybody to the same level in terms of what's been happening for the last 12 months and what the outlook is in terms of the market for the next 12 months. We're then going to follow that with a second keynote from Equinor, from Bjorn Muskag, who's the Strategic Project Manager for Automated Drilling Control. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about the successes Equinor has had with drilling automation technology, implementing it, developing it, and then also some of the KPI improvements that they've seen. And then after that, we're done with PowerPoint. Okay. So we're really going to move then to a very lively session, which will last an hour and 15 minutes. And that's where we have a panel discussion that will include both the speakers I've mentioned from Rystad and Equinor, but we're also going to bring in Sven Kruger, who's Baker Hughes's drilling services technology leader, Kai Kostal, who's a senior performance engineer from MH Worth, a drilling equipment manufacturer in Norway, and then Trevor Burgess, who's Michael's mentioned, who'll be talking about access to capital in this current environment and giving us a very different perspective for a lot of other people on the panel. Then we're going to bring in Johan Kernland. Again, I hope I pronounced that right, from Total. And we really wanted Johan because we didn't want this just to be a fan parade about Equinor and what Equinor are doing. We wanted another operator in there to really contrast the kind of opinions and the experiences that Bjorn's going to bring to the table. And then finally, Runa Kaval from Transocean can give us that perspective of the drilling contractor and the rig operator. So, yeah. And then finally, we'll have 50 minutes of an update for SP DSATs, Drillbotics, and IADC ART before moving into some breakout sessions in breakout rooms, which David talked about earlier. So hopefully that gives a pretty clear idea. David, did I miss anything there?
No, nothing missed out there. So yes, those networking opportunities that at the physical event would have happened after the symposium with maybe a buffet and a beer in hand. Well, that the equivalent is going to be the EPUB in our breakout rooms. So once we've had the panel discussion and the updates, then feel free to, I encourage you to open a beer, pour a glass of wine, and go along to one or other of the breakout rooms and chat with your friends there, chat with the speakers, the organizers, and that's the opportunity then to share your thoughts and your perspectives and quiz a little bit deeper in that more relaxed, informal setting.
I mean, we should point out that it will be 8 a.m. in Houston, but this is the oil industry, so I'm sure everybody's happy having a beer or a glass of wine at 8 o'clock in Houston.
I think a mimosa would be more appropriate. Yeah. I also add that we'll send out the link to the registration for everybody that is interested in registering for the event on LinkedIn and some other venues as well. Maybe David will put a link on his site.
I will definitely put up any links I can. I did put up while you guys were talking just a minute ago. Here is the actual flyer for it that you guys may see online. So feel free to find that one online. Hi. Okay, say hi, Brooklyn. Tell everybody hi. What question do you have for him? Ask him a question. Ask him a question. Well, you want to be on the show, you got to ask questions. You don't need to be scared. Don't worry. There's only like 1 million people watching us right now. You got something for them? All right. If anybody else is actually out there watching that's still participating, I know we've got a lot of stuff that's coming through the comments, and I can't even keep track of it. I didn't realize I was so far behind. I'm trying to find some of the questions. There's been a lot of just discussion back and forth. So like I'm pretty much out of the loop with everything. Don't keep moving it. So we do have a question from, so this is Dr. C, who's actually been on the show before. He's one of the professors at OU. And he says, can universities showcase their research at the symposium or something like OTC University booths?
David?
So I think the simple answer to that is there won't be any opportunity at the symposium itself for exhibition booths. The drilling conference, of which with which we're staging the symposium, and which is running all week, then for sure they have a virtual exhibition, and I'm sure if you get in touch with them, they'd be happy to explore with you the opportunities for showcasing research. But by all means, come along, Edwin, and when you're in the breakout session afterwards, that's the opportunity to say, hey, you know what, this is the sort of research we're doing in my research group here, and look at here's its relevance. Would you be interested in following up further? So
do you have to put this Mark Anders says, in a virtual breakout group room, count me in, with a beer mug emoji.
Thank you, Mark.
Mark's a great steward for the industry and the DSATS group. All right, I've completely lost my place with all of the different questions and stuff that are out there. So I'll leave it to the panel that's here right now. I'm not saying this is the end of the show by any means, but do y'all have anything that you personally want to be able to share, something that you want to put out there about what's taking place either at the symposium or what's taking place in the industry that is near and dear to your heart?
Well, while the others are thinking about that and industrial topics, I just wanted to say here, this is the first time we've done this symposium as a virtual event. We're learning, we're having to learn a lot. We're getting a lot of support and help from SPE staff, particularly Barry Kokea with the London office. I want to say a big thank you to Barry, and also thanks to Greg Hickey from the SPE headquarters for the support they've been giving us, helping us stage the event. Matt, Mike, there's something you had to wanted to add.
Michael, I think on DSAT's business, I think we've covered everything we wanted to. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring up, or do you think it's worth discussing here with Western? We have David Gibson as well.
Right. I would just kind of leave it as we really do need you in the audience to share the link and the registration. We do think this is a prime time to be talking about this topic in the way in which we're talking and challenging what it does take to scale up. We don't want to go backwards. There is a threat that we may go backwards and put, lots of people on, rigs where we don't need them. We can keep them in the office remotely. And we can be putting some automated systems in now. We're going to be showing, the relative low cost and the de-risking of capital examples that we are, so that you can actually lift them and put them right into your organization for ramping up automation. So we do think that you do play a role. Help us get out the link. Help us understand what the other questions or barriers that we may not be seeing out there that are preventing us from scaling up automation. So thank you. Appreciate it, David.
No worries.
Yes, David. So someone just popped up the DSO about the roadmap. Yes. So what I was going to say, David, many thanks for giving us the opportunity to come onto your show, explain a bit about the symposium. That's the DSATS IADC Art Symposium. We hope that there's something in here that the audience have found interesting. We hope they'll want to register for and attend the symposium. It's going to be on Monday, the 8th of March. It's in conjunction with the SPE IADC International Drilling Conference. Obviously, we'd like people to attend both. The organizers would like people to attend both, but there's no obligation on you to attend the full conference. If you want to attend just the symposium, that's fine. You can do that. And you'll find the registration link online on the Drilling Conference website, and hopefully we'll be able to post that link as well onto LinkedIn shortly. So again, we hope it's been interesting. We encourage everyone, if you have found this interesting, please do register, please do attend.
If anybody's watching and they can open another tab, because you don't want to close out the one you're watching us on, can open up another tab and put the link to the event or the registration to the event in the comment section for everybody to be able to see. I would appreciate that. It'd be awesome for us to be able to share. Obviously, we need somebody to probably do it on YouTube and on LinkedIn. So give that a shot. One last question for you guys, and then we'll close it out. This is a very interesting question, and I think this is very pertinent to our industry. Who do you see is investing the most in automation? Any company in particular, or what portion of the food chain, I guess, within our industry? Is it drilling contractors? Is it the operators? Do you see it in service companies, private equities? Where do y'all see the biggest investment going into, or who's making that biggest investment?
I can make a couple of comments. First of all, I don't think that there's a unified report out there. If you have a report out of giving you stats on who's investing in automation, we'd love to see it. I'm not aware of any. I can say that what we're finding is unique is the shared investment structure, where you don't have just one operator or one rig contractor or one downhole service company actually solely investing in full-scale automation, that there's actually a coming together and determining how they can retrofit current equipment fleets to make them more automated. There's no throwing out the current fleet and bringing in a new fleet. So the capital investment decisions, I think if you have one takeaway, they're a unified decision-making that is happening in the industry versus one or two or three companies individually.
Yeah, I concur with that, Michael. I certainly don't have a feeling that there's a clear leader there in terms of either, is it the service company group, or is it the rig contractors, or is it the operators? I think it varies from region to region, and I think, my gut feeling is if you were to average it all out, it's probably pretty even. I think what is interesting is more on the digital side, perhaps, than on the, the actual on-premise automation. That's definitely an area that's becoming more and more crowded. And we're not at the level of, say, startups that we see in the Bay Area for other industries in tech, but there's definitely a growing number of people in that kind of drilling tech space, and there's definitely a little bit of investment there. But I think all of these questions, all these statements that me and you are making here now, if we look to the symposium, that's something that Frederick from Rystad and Trevor should be able to give us a pretty clear, answer on and forecast on.
Good point.
Well, David, Michael, Matthew, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really do appreciate it. Let me put this up one more time for everybody. Here we go. This is the flyer for the Symposium to Automate and Scale in the Current Industry and Societal Environment. Sponsorships, opportunities available. This is being brought to you through SPE and IADC. You can see all of the speakers that are going to be there, and it's all moderated by the person that's on our show today, one of our panelists today, Michael Edwards. Michael, thank you so much for taking part of this, and the steering committee, David, Matthew, as well as all of my fellow DSATS members. I am one of the subcommittee chairs for the Open API software. So that's something I'm going to start working on hard this week, is finding all of the different software things out there. And I think we're going to try to maybe even expand it to all the different things that, people have got, open source, as far as GitHub, Python stuff. Y'all might have seen my post from earlier this week on LinkedIn, highlighting some of the people out there within our industry that are putting out either tutorials or how to be able to learn how to be able to use Python within our industry, and maybe even some outside of it, but just being able to, gain that expertise and gain another skill set, which I think is actually absolutely worthwhile. It's something I also need to be able to pressure myself on. Like I said, I'm really excited about this event. I cannot wait to be in attendance myself and be able to watch and see all of the speakers taking part and seeing how we can continue to push the industry forward. So David, Michael, Matthew, thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. Any last words from y'all?
Thank you, David.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to demonstrate, showcase the symposium, and hopefully we've been able to attract audience to come along on Monday, 8th of March.
There you go.
Thanks again, David.
Yeah, 8th of March, 5 days after the Rotary Steerable event. So we'll do the Rotary Steerable event, and we'll tell everybody about that one. So just in case somebody forgot, we do have this event, the Rotary Steerable one. This is what I'm putting on. There you go. There is no more sponsorship opportunities because it's completely full. I'm blown away. I'm having to turn away money as a solo entrepreneur. It's something very, very, very hard for me to do. Extremely hard. So thank you guys for being here. This is an absolutely awesome show. Brooklyn, thank you so much for interrupting several times. She's in the other room with Weston, the twin. So great show. I don't have anything scheduled yet for next week. I'll find somebody and we'll bring them onto the show. We'll do something fun. For everybody out there that's watching, as always, know your industry and have a wonderful, safe weekend. This is Texas. It's icy. You don't know how to drive, so don't do it. All right. Thanks.